Jaya Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giribhara Dhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Bhanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotarashata Shishimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantara Shriman Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. There is no board, and verse written in the board, and so if you're gonna look in your phone, is number 12, chapter 88, text number 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh, actually is text number 13. I'm sorry. So it's 13 to 16. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 88, Lord Shiva saved from Brikasura, text 13 to 16. And so you can look on your phone. We're going to read together text number 13. Okay. Atrachodaharanti mam itihasham puratanam brikashura yakirisho varandatva pasankatam atrachodaharanti mam itihasham puratanam brikashura yakirisho varandatva pasankatam. atra chodaharanti mam itihasam puratanam. Brikashuraya girisho barandatva pashankatam. Atra chodaharanti mam itihasam puratanam. Brikashuraya girisho barandatva pashankatam. Atra chodaharanti mam itihasam puratanam. Brikashuraya girisho barandatva pasantatam. Atra, in this regard, cha and udaharanti, they relate as an example imam, the following, itihasam, historical account, puratanam, ancient, bikra asuraya, to the demon Brika, Girishaha, Lord Shiva, master of Mount Kailash, Varam, a choice of benediction, Dattva, given, Apa, obtain, Shankatam, a dangerous situation. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. In this connection, an ancient historical account is related concerning how the Lord of Kailash mountain was put into danger by offering a choice of benediction to the demon Brika. I'm going to read as we go some of the purpose of our Goswami Acharyas. Srila Jiva Goswami comments on this verse. Instead of Puratanam, sometimes Purabhida is seen. Those who know Puranas tell this story. Text number 14. Brikunamu Sharaputra Shakune Patinaradam Drishtva Shuto Shampapracha Deveshu Trishu Durmati. Translation. The demon named Brika, a son of Shakunis, once met Narada on the road. The wicked fellow asked him which of the three chief gods could be pleased most quickly. Srila Jiva Goswami comments, Brika met Narada on the road. and without intelligence inquire from him. His question revealed his evil nature on meeting the great devotee and his total ignorance of proper behavior. Quote, among the three, who is most easily pleased? End of quote. Text number 15. Sa ahadeva girisham upadvashushit upavashush upadavashushit yashi yolpabhyam gunadoshabhyam ashutushyati kupjati. Translation. Narada told him, worship Lord Shiva and you will soon achieve success. He quickly becomes pleased by seeing his worshippers' slightest good qualities, and quickly angered by seeing his slightest fault. Srila Jiva Goswami comments, immediately worship Shiva and you will be successful. Everything will be clear. He is satisfied by a few good qualities and angered by a few bad qualities. And text number 16. Dasasya vanayostushta stuvator bandinor iva aishwaryam atulandatva tapa apa sushankatam. Translation. He became pleased with the 10-headed Ravana and also with Bana when they each chanted his glories like bards in a royal court. Lord Shiva then bestowed unprecedented power upon each of them, but in both cases he was consequently beset with great difficulty. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ravana worshipped Lord Shiva to gain power and then misused that power to uproot the Lord's residence, sacred Kailash Parvata. On Banasura's request, Lord Shiva agreed to personally guard Bana's capital, and later he had to fight for Banas against Sri Krishna and his sons. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also comments on this verse. Shiva fell into difficulty because of the uprooting of Kailash and his having to protect Banasura's city. And Srila Jiva Goswami also comments on this verse, quote, if that is so, I am afraid. End of quote. Do not worry. Shiva will not be able to do anything to you once you have obtained the benediction from him. He shows these examples. Bana and Ravana chanted like bards because they had strong desires. Because Bana, Shiva fell into great difficulty. He suffered from fighting with the Lord when Bana requests him to fight on his behalf. The example is taken from a previous kalpa, since the incident with Brika happened long before Krishna's birth. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pesaya Bhutale Srimate Romapada Swami Iti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. It is to be understood that any system of organization within this material world is vulnerable, in one sense, to the abuse of demoniac type of people. Even the perfect system that is provided by the Lord Himself for this material world can be the subject of this abuse, and we see that. Why is that? Well, it's how it's designed. This world is a place that is governed by dualities, good and bad. So in the face of that duality, things can swing this way, things can swing that way. And that's everything that is in this material world. So when we see the laws that are given by the Supreme Lord to govern the material world and to maintain order in one sense, for the people of the material world, the conditioned souls within the material world, then you can see that according to the consciousness of such people, then you can see how things can go this way or that way. Prahlad Maharaj explained that people that are conditioned by material existence or by the bodily conception of life or by material consciousness, they do not understand what is beneficial or what is good or what is their that which is their interest. Swarta. They don't understand what is the real interest. And the real interest of the living entity is to be at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. But they don't understand that. They don't understand that because they're completely bewildered by material nature. They're being covered by ignorance. And therefore, they cannot see what is beneficial. That is a conditioned soul. And that, unfortunately, the situation that that many of us, which are still afflicted by this bodily concept of life, this material condition, we have to deal with. But the point is that regardless, so now you see, we have this perfect system. Krishna explains, in the beginning of creation, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, in the beginning of creation, he set up this system that will rule the universe. It's a system of demigods and men, and the process of the activities that must be performed in order to maintain quite a nice balance, a nice flow, a peaceful flow of in the universe. The process is called Yagya. So he established the system of demigods, man, and the performance of Yagya. And they all have to abide to that. The demigods are administrators, and they're supposed to provide all the requirements for the living, for mankind to live peacefully in the world and sort of progress. That is the system. It's designed like that. So people understand man who following this system. This system is called dharma, the system of religion. Then you're able to not only properly live your life with all the necessities of your life covered and happy in one sense, satisfied in one sense, and then progressively elevate yourself. Now, because in this world also there is two classes of man. There is one, some of divine consciousness or nature, and another one of demoniac nature. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita too, 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Divine and demoniac nature. Then accordingly, these two people, these two classes of people, can take that system and use it for a particular purpose, depending on their consciousness. So we see in here the case, and quoted, at least we have three different such demoniac person using the system to acquire powers to be able to fulfill the demoniac desires. So they understand that in order to achieve those desires, you have to worship, you have to go through the system, you have to perform an austerity, you have to perform a yajna on austerity, and then the demigods are obliged to give you the results of those yajnas. And thus they receive the benefit of the yajna in the form of opulences, power, different things that they can actually search for. And once they obtain, their demoniac nature will make them use that for, Krishna explains also in the 60th chapter, the mentality, for means to cause destruction. I read you is in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna explains this mentality. But the thing is that you see that these demoniac people are not necessarily sort of like, what's the name of people that are, that once, that they're not, they're using the system. It's not that they're anarchists, no? Anarchists is people who disregard the system and try to, plow themselves even against the system and obtain their means, But these are demoniac people who function within the system for and use it for the demoniac means. So in one sense, we can understand, okay, why? See, if this system is designed by the Lord, why? Why allowed that vulnerability? Why allowed for that vulnerability? That once a while a powerful demon can come and cause a whole disturbance by abusing these principles of religion. Without going through this principle, this process, they cannot obtain the powers that they aspire to. They aspire to have powers that they can challenge the great controllers. They want to be God. And for them, the controllers, the demigods, are gods. Or they're powerful beings. Actually, demoniacs, they don't accept a supreme being. They say they may see someone as just a powerful being, but they, by their intelligence and by their trickery, they can challenge. If they actually can obtain powers by their own resources, then they can challenge that and be in that position of supreme power. But the incredible thing is that, okay, they're within the system, they use it and they abuse it. And then once the few that become so powerful are even capable of toppling the whole managerial organization of the universe. And we see it in different ways. In the case of Hiranyakashipu, in the case of Ravana, they completely disrupted the managerial order of the universe. We've been hearing, because the appearance of Lord Ramachandra was last week, about Ravana basically terrorizing the whole universe. The demigods, headed by Indra, they were completely afraid of this Ravana. It was so powerful. And Ravana obtains much of his powers by Lord Shiva and by Lord Brahma. So now Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are among the 12 most elevated authorities of the system of Dharma. They're among the 12 Mahajans, the greatest of beings in the universe, authorities. How is that they have to give these benedictions to these beings, demoniac beings, when just by understanding their qualities, you can understand that it's going to be a problem. I mean, you may understand of regular people, like the Bhagavatam said, that ordinary ignorant people, they choose as leaders bigger dogs, hogs, and camels than them. So because they don't know better, so the one that is the biggest bully among themselves, oh, that must be this is the strongest one. He's the alpha of our group, so he is our leader. So you can understand that with ordinary people, but when these powerful demigods, controllers, I mean, looking at Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Be also hearing the seventh canto of the Bhagavatam, in which Lord Nrsimhadev dispatched Hiranyakashipu. And after dispatching Hiranyakashipu and being pacified by the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Nrsimhadev chastised Lord Brahma and basically saying, my dear Brahma, please be careful, consider, by you giving benediction, this type of benedictions to this demon, look at the whole big trouble that you created. But actually, the one thing that disturbed him the most, Lord Nrsimhadev, was by giving benedictions to this unqualified demoniac being, my dearest devotee was put in trouble. And that's unacceptable. So please make sure that this won't happen again. So now that question, why? How is that these great personalities give benedictions to such beings like Vana, like Brikashura, like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, and so on and so on. So many stories are there of demons obtaining boons from demigods and gaining great power that caused so much trouble to the people of the universe. And the answer is it's designed like that. It's a system that is designed like that. Now, why the Lord designed a system like that? Well, in one sense, is because the way, at least from my understanding, and which I have to admit that is limited, because this is a quite complex, in one sense, understanding, and in one sense, is one of the aims of the Bhagavatam. To understand the glories of Krishna is to understand his creation and also understand how he deals with his creation, and also about how he protects his devotees. So the 10 subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam includes these different things: the creation, annihilation, the protection of the devotees. Can't remember. I can say the 10, quickly like that, but it's all included. So the system in itself of this material world is designed to create the environment in which the living entity can understand the proper use of their free will to come to the conclusion, after going through ordeal after ordeal in a world that is have these elements of suffering and temporary, that you go a full circle, go back to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So it's designed like that. And meanwhile, okay, so the system in itself can be abused. But every time it gets abused, then the Lord descends. The Lord descends to establish again, reestablish the principles of religion, annihilate the miscreants, and protect the devotees. So that's how the system works. The system can be abused, but the Lord is the protector. And Why is that important? Because covered by ignorance, we're not able to see the Lord as a protector. And the lila of the Lord in this material world is to constantly protect religiosity and those who adhere to the principles of religion, not to abuse them, but to actually use it in a proper way, which is to elevate one consciousness to the supreme, to obtain the lotus feet of the Lord. So every time there's a disturbance in the process of religion, yada yada hitarmasya glanir bharata, glanir bhavati bharata, abhyuttanam adharmasya sajami, what is it? Bhajami aham. I appear in my personal form when there is a disturbance, this adharmasya. Paritranaya sharanam vinashaya jaduskritam. Dharma sanstapanam Dharma sanstapanam. I appear every millennium, yuge yuge, to establish these principles of religion. So that's the system that the Lord creates. But then here we see that, yes, these demons can use, they know. So here we have the story of Vikra. It's classical demon. He understands, okay, I want to be powerful. I want these powers. And with their contaminated intelligence, or poor intelligence, they figured it out some way. Okay, if I have this power, I can, who's going to defeat me? I mean, this was not so intelligent, Vikrasura. I mean, Hiranyakashipu was super clever. Ravana was clever. But this one wanted the powers. We're going to hear that, whoever I touch the heads, it will explode. I mean, not super intelligence, a little, yeah. But anyway, you can see the typical one. And they understand, okay, in order for me to achieve that, I have to worship the demigods. I have to approach the different gods. Which one will be able to give me this benediction the fastest? That was his whole mentality. And that's what he's looking for. And as he travels, then he comes with Narada. He will tell me. And now the question is, why Narada told this fellow this thing? I mean, when you see one of these uncivilized people, you, in fact, as devotees, as preachers, we're trained to avoid this type of people, right? The platform of the preacher, it says that you feel you show compassion to the innocent. You make friendship with the devotees, and you avoid the demons. There's this type of discrimination for the preacher, the Madhyama preacher. But here's Narada. He just gives this demon the means by which he can actually obtain this whole thing. What is the answer to that? Why Narada? Well, there's something with Narada Muni that he is so in tune with the Leela of the Lord that in all cases he just accelerates, he assists, he sort of make the arrangements for the Leela to actually take place. So it's a very special personality. And then we have Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma and all the demigods, they're obliged in one sense to bestow a benediction. What? Ask for a boon. And then again, there comes the demoniac person abusing the system. But they're obliged to give a boon. They're obliged to give a boon. It's the system. The philosophers of the Karma Mimamsa, they see this and they understand, oh, so performing sacrifices is king, is supreme, because they oblige, the gods are obliged to bestow the results of the sacrifice. And that includes Lord Vishnu. That's their mistake, and they're seeing from the perspective of, from a material perspective, the whole system that is arranged by the Lord. So it is an incorrect thing, this Karma Mimamsa program. We heard the Shrutis completely dismissing that in the previous chapter. So they're obliged to give that. They're obliged. However, this example is being given by Lord Krishna explaining to Maharaj Yudhisthira the question of Lord Vishnu's boons are very much different than the boons that are given by other personalities such as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. There is different, and yesterday we heard the description that Krishna gave of this type of boons that Lord Vishnu gives. They are transcendental, they're spiritual, they're non-material. And therefore, they're not easy to be able to see them and understanding. You have to have a much more, you have to be spiritually advanced to understand the benedictions of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu may satisfy, may give the devotees some benediction, opulent benediction, but first, before doing that, he removes all material contamination. And then he may bestow, riches, such as Dhruva Maharaj. First of all, he gave Dhruva Maharaj Krishna Prema, and then he say, okay, but here's a kingdom for you. I give you the pole star. He gave Prahlad Krishna Prema, and then told Prahlad, you manage for so many thousands and thousands of years the kingdom of the Daitas. The Daitas, the demons. So it's different. The benedictions that are that Lord Vishnu gives, he says, this takes away your desires, your material desires. And he may do that by in some cases, which is the question, is by wiping out all your material facilities. Like that. He may do that usually, or at least that's something that is seen. Devotees of Krishna, they're not very opulent in general in comparison to other demigods. But in this case, now we're seeing these demons understanding the system and obtaining the boons from these great demigods, that at the end will create troubles for everybody, including the very demigods that are giving Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. They have to go through so many difficulties after giving that boon. It creates a huge disruption. It's quite something. Creates such a huge disruption. And, like these demons' mentalities, Also, one beautiful point, I'm going to finish with this because I think it's important to highlight it too, because it's explained within the verse and in the purpose of our acharyas, is how an individual, even not to the extent of these crazy demons, but someone who comes into association with an advanced devotee, with a pure devotee, with absolutely no intelligence and no understanding of appropriateness. That's how you say? Appropriateness. In terms of behavior, in terms of doing the proper how you say, Vaishnava Achar. Absolutely not understanding of any of that. Dealing, because being blinded by one's material desires, then everything you see is meant to serve the obtaining of your desires. And so, you see people sometimes dealing with advanced devotees in a very rude and unintelligent and actually, it's almost like you're trying to do a transaction. You're going through a clerk and demanding, your goods, and you're supposed to be obliged to do that. So in this case, we see this Vikra showing that type of behavior as he meets Narada Muni. To have the association of such a great personality of Narada Muni, like we hear in the narration, the great saintly kings, how they received Narada Muni. I mean, Krishna himself, when he received Narada Muni in his palace, he basically stopped everything and worshiped Narada with all the different paraphernalias and all the things, and words and like that. This demon shows, this mentality of completely oblivious, because it's so self-centered that no reality, everything is supposed to serve my interest. So that fellow can give me the information that I need. Hey, which demigod can I worship to get, to get the result the fastest? That's what, as he meets with Narada, that's the thing that he goes to. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that no intelligence and no sense of propriety. Propriety, no? No sense. And we can see that sometimes that we have to be so careful when we deal with advanced devotees to actually act in such a way that the benefit of the association with an advanced devotee is that the advanced devotees can give us Krishna. So, in association with advanced devotees, the instruction is pariprasnena sevaya. We actually inquire submissively and render service. That's the association that we have. That's a proper association with great, great Vaishnavas. So, this is an important feature. And this shows, Srila Shiva Goswami say, it shows immediately the mentality, the demoniac mentality and character of this fellow. Narada immediately could understand just by his behavior. So these behaviors of these demons is troublesome, just cause trouble, and then that's what we're going to see throughout this pastime. Any comments or questions? Yes, Vaishnava Swana.
Thank you for your class, Prabhuji. Long. Took a lot to get to that point to be able to explain all that. I was just thinking how in the material realm, even the demons are Krishna's sons. And just the thought was there that as a good father, having bad kids and good kids, and then the bad kids live over there and the good kids live over there. The good kids have no business over there where the bad kids are. So I was just thinking like that as far as why the demons can be a part of the structure of the be a part of the structure, like Kamsa, and why the Lord would allow them to have something to do so that they can eventually grow. That was just one thought. But another thought was how we speak about devotees of Krishna not having opulence, but in the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, wherever there's Arjuna, wherever there's Krishna, the master of all mystics, and Arjuna, the supreme archer, there would certainly be, one of the things he mentions is opulence, right? And Krishna even gave not only opulence, but he even gave Lady Subhadra to Arjuna. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts about the difference between, of course, Krishna takes away things that are going to block our bhakti, but I was wondering if you have any thoughts about the difference between, the ones that don't get the opulence, and like Arjuna, who's the supreme archer and does get the opulence. Like, is other than like, we know that if Krishna really favors you, he takes everything away. And what I've heard is that if you become more responsible, he'll give it back. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on. the
Well,
difference.
the way I understand it is how it was explained in the previous verses, that the opulence that Krishna speaks of his benedictions is transcendental, is spiritual. And so, from the material perspective, it's something that is extremely subtle and difficult to understand when we are seeing from a material covering perspective. So, in the material covering perspective, we see opulence in just a particular way. Opulence means, to be, to have all these facilities, powers, and riches, and beauty, and fame, etc., education, etc. So we see like that. But from the perspective of a spiritual, then all these things are, they're transcendental to the material, the material so-called opulence, like that. So even a devotee like, say, Haridas Thakur, who was, from the perspective of materialistic perspective, he was a simple sadhu, poverty-stricken sadhu. But his opulences were such, that, um, you know, demigods and um, saintly persons were immediately, bow down to and accepting the position of superiority of such a person. I mean, Srila Advaita Acharya considered Haridas Thakur the most qualified of brahmanas who should receive the first offering. So it takes a spiritual vision to understand that type of the the opulence of Krishna consciousness. It takes that understanding, and when that spiritual vision is not very developed, then we're not able to see and understand it very properly. So that's my understanding. Again, limited in that case, but that's how I understand. Any other question? Krishna Archana? Oh, yes, Subhakrit Prabhu, and then Krishna Archana.
Haribo. The question is little bit sensitive bit. Still, I will say, but you have to speak the truth. So first is Athatu Brahma Jignasa. One should inquire about the absolute truth. Then humanity begins. Manusha Nam Sahasreshu, thousands, millions. One may achieve success out of that. So on the one stage is Maya is very strong. Very few people can achieve that high stage like that.
Mm.
So it's really a fight, tug of war with our mind. We have to go from sense to mind to soul platform like that. Exactly. So it's not an easy thing like another the sensitive thing is like I won't go to the very detail. Most people come from the back side and it's the streets are not favorable. It's very and most people don't come from the front side and sometimes very disturbing.
Mm.
Hare Krishna. So that was sensitive.
Yeah, thank you so much for your comment. Yeah, yeah, indeed. It's not an easy thing. I mean, sometimes as devotees we speak of these elevated positions, and like ideals, but definitely, it's not something that you reach just by. It's one thing to have the nominal understanding, and the other thing is to really be in that understanding. So jnana and vijnana, quite a difference. Uh, our knowledge have to mature, so to be able to come to those understandings. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing. I mean, Krishna says it. It's difficult to understand. And in fact, we have here that even in those questions, it's a question that was asked here by Maharaj Parikshit to Sukadev Goswami. He's asking that because also he sees Maharaj Parikshit have a much that type of deep understanding, but he's asking on behalf of the huge amount. There were, a huge amount of sadhus and munis and saintly people, transcendentalists who were sitting in that assembly in which Sukadev Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. And many of them didn't have that proper understanding. Sadhus, transcendentalists who didn't have the proper understanding, like Jaimini of the Karma Mimamsa, he was there. He was there with his followers. Gautama was there. All these different rishis, they were there, sitting in there, hearing the Bhagavatam also. And Maharaj Parikshit was asking for the benefit because their misunderstanding will create further misunderstanding to the regular people who will be exposed to this type of thinking and philosophy. So he wanted to help to establish. And then Maharaj Yudhisthira asked Krishna the same question. So it's not these people, they trying to understand that, what to speak of ourselves. And for us to claim, no, I got it. No, Prabhu, I got it. The other day I was meditating about it and I feel enlightened. Haribol. Okay. You feel enlightened this moment and the next moment you're, sort of doing some nonsense. So our position is, we have to understand that it requires serious practice, serious purification, and we have to be committed to that. Let's go. Thank you, Prabhu.
So I was contemplating the point you raised that there wasn't proper Vaishnava etiquette on the part of Riksha in meeting Narada and immediately posing his question coming from a place of self-interest. So I was giving thought to this particular response of Narada that he answered directly the question. So the role of etiquette seems to be very much interconnected with allowing for dialogue or a discourse where one can actually exchange some ideas. But clearly, if there's no etiquette, then there isn't room for that kind of dialogue. So I was thinking that that must be why the intelligent Vaishnava Narada is just responding precisely to the question, and there's no, discussion about what might be the consequences of this, or, is this the right way to be thinking? There's no room for any of that. So I was just giving thought to it.
Yeah, it's sort of difficult to understand some of these, especially Nara's dealing with some of these demons. Same with Kamsa. I mean, the advices that Narada gave to Kamsa was like, why, are you do what, it appears that he was goading Kamsa to actually do all kinds of horrible things. But Nara's, because of our acharyas and because of the narrations of the Bhagavatam, we come to understand what was the purpose that was behind Narada doing these things. In fact, we hear in the Bhagavatam when the sages, all these different philosophers and munis were trying to agree how to help Maharaj Parikshit. Some of them were suggesting, well, why don't we choose one that we all will accept as the head, and let that person that we choose guide Maharaj Parikshit? And someone suggested, oh, Narada should be. Narada, he's a transcendental person who is able to go to Vaikuntha as well in the material world, whatever. So he's, and then some of the munis, they complain. They say, no, I cannot trust Narada because you see how he advised Kansa. It's like that type of trickery is not, I don't trust him. Even a Muni have a difficulty understanding Narada Muni and some of the activities. But our acharyas reveal that Narada Muni is in such a deep connection with the Lord's purpose that he is just, facilitating the Leela of the Lord, contributing to that. So for us to try to, in one sense, emulate the way Narada Muni sometimes deals with some of these demons, it may not be the right thing. It may not be, appropriate for us. So in one case, if some crazy person comes that you can sense, is this demoniac energy, and asks you about how can I rob the temple, we won't give him the straight, well, come around 4 o'clock, no one is there, and you can take whatever you want. So, Narada may do that because he knows, Lord Nrsingadev is going to jump out of that picture and tear the demon apart. But we don't have that. That's, anyway, my simple understanding. All right. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you so much.